Hi everyone. We're at the BCA Caldwood Pavilion on Tremont Street in Boston. Now, usually here you can see one of two theater companies do a staging. One would be Speakeasy Stage Company, but tonight we're seeing Huntington Theater Company putting on Kim's Convenience right here behind me. Did I like it? Let's find out. Talk to you in a bit. And welcome to This Week in Massachusetts Theater. Hi everyone, how are you? So this is episode 11 of This Week in Massachusetts Theater, and what a great week it was. I mean, it was a fabulous collection of shows that we took a look at, and we're going to be sharing the reviews with you this week. Four brand new productions that are taking place in Massachusetts that I want to tell you about. The first is She Kills Monsters, which is being performed by the Concord Players out in Concord, Mass. And just a dazzling spectacle of special effects, and probably one of the best productions I've seen by the Concord Players. It's just great storytelling. I hope you enjoy listening to the review. Next up, we're going to be talking about Kim's Convenience, which I saw Friday night at the Huntington Theater at the BCA Calderwood in Boston, which fabulous production of it's a traveling show that is being hosted by the Huntington Theater Company. So I need to make sure that people are aware of that. But it's a fabulous show, and it's 90 minutes. You'll have a great time. Finally, well, not finally, but the third show that we took a look at or reviewed this weekend was out in Cambridge, called Summer 1976, which is a two-hander featuring two marvelous actresses about that particular summer in the mid-'70s, and where these two people strike up an unlikely relationship. And you'll hear it in the review. But finally, we have Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is at the Emerson Colonial Theater in Boston right now, and is playing for a few weeks. So you'll have plenty of opportunities to see it, and I highly recommend that you do see it, whether you know Harry Potter or not, and you'll hear more about that in the review. So stay tuned. And we'll also take one final look at the month of November for the shows that are being performed between now and December 1st. And we'll, sum up at the end, and we'll be back in a little while. So stay tuned and have a good time listening. Thank you. Huntington Theater Company hosts In's Choice, Kim's Convenience, a production from Adam Blanchet Productions in association with Soul Pepper Theater Company and the American Conservatory Theater for taking up a limited residency at the Calderwood Pavilion in Boston. Kim's Convenience is a delightful tale about a family-run Korean-owned neighborhood convenience store in Toronto. Making its debut in 2011 at the Toronto Fringe Festival, the show became an immediate hit, and judging by the responses and reactions at the audience at the November 7th Huntington Theater performance at the Calderwood Pavilion, it is easy to understand why. The story touches anyone recognizing the emotions within a similar family dynamic, or even connecting to others on an emotional level, even if not in a similar family dynamic. Under the direction of Weenie Mengisha, Kim's Convenience was a recipient of two 2012 Toronto Theatre Critics Awards, including one for Best Canadian Play. In 2017, the show was performed off-Broadway from 2016 until 2021. CBC Television produced the 65-episode series Kim's Convenience, which became the first Canadian television show to feature an Asian cast of lead actors. I must confess, though, when I attended the November 7th Huntington Theater performance, I had never seen an episode of the series Kim's Convenience. It wasn't until I returned home and told my family about the sitcom feel of the current 90-minute play, no intermission, that my youngest daughter advised me of the series, which is apparently available on Netflix. Who knew? Apparently not me. Yet, just because it became an instant sitcom doesn't lessen the impact or negate the overall charm and warmth expressed by its creator and these wonderfully rich characters. Why Canada, though, and not set in the U.S.? My guess would be because it's the truth. This was Choi's, or based on Choi's own true life experience, which genuinely shines through in every moment on stage. A large amount of Korean immigration to Canada took place in the 1960s, with Koreans trying to create a better future for their families, including Choi's family. While we also see this in the United States, many Koreans settled in Toronto and opened convenience stores as a means of business. As well as writing the show, Choi also stars in the latest Huntington Theatre production as store owner and family patriarch Appa, based upon his own father who worked at his uncle's convenience store. Esther Chung portrays Oma, the wife of Appa, who is a faithful churchgoer. This is possibly a nod from Choi to the Korean church, which assisted Choi by contributing funding to help him complete the play. Choi and Chung have multiple exchanges spoken mostly in non-English, but thanks to the intuitive performances by the actors, at no point do we feel as if we're losing out on any of the context as to what they are discussing. As the play unfolds, Kim's Convenience shows us these two Korean immigrants who opened their Toronto convenience store in the 1980s. There's a nice flashback sequence about midway through the play showing us the origin story of the store, which is affectionately recalled by both Chung and Choi as their characters. Now, though, after being a fixture in this neighborhood for decades, the couple must contend with the ever-evolving community in which their store resides, which includes encountering differences of opinions with those of outside cultures. The bigger threat to Appa, though, comes from the emergence of the competing box store businesses with deep pockets appearing intent on eliminating the need for traditional family-owned neighborhood convenience stores. Amidst all of this, Appa must also contend with the cultural differences between himself and his own Canadian-born daughter, Janet, played by Kelly J. Sia, and estranged son, Jung, played by Ryan Jin. The elder Appa is offered the opportunity to sell Kim's Convenience, but instead hopes struggling photographer Janet, unmarried, pushing 30, and still living at home, will take over the store from him when he finally retires. Seo gives an enthusiastic, vibrant performance as the combative Janet, who loves her parents but finds it increasingly difficult to contend with her father's insufferable, inflexible ways. Choi's writing conveys a message in Kim's Convenience that extends beyond the relationship of a store owner. It is about family. Brandon McKnight is both exemplary, is portraying a myriad of divergent characters that come into the store, including wealthy realtor Mr. Lee, who offers to purchase Appa's store and property, then later as Canadian cop Alex, who is friends with Jung and also asks about him in the store, leading to an awkward moment with Appa and a new relationship possibility with Janet. Jin offers a sympathetic portrayal as Appa's son, Jung, who ran away from home when he was 16 after Appa became uncharacteristically hostile towards his son. Uma is the only one in the family who has remained in touch with Jung, meeting him at the church. Although the story is quite predictable, there's a quality of sincerity in Choi's writing about this particular Korean-Canadian family dynamic. In addition, there's a genuine affection conveyed by the actors on stage as their characters that elevates the material. The single set design in the convenience store may seem generic, but as you look above the stage at the skyline of the neighborhood, there's a lot going on technically, which adds to the fun of watching this show. Kim's Convenience continues from Huntington Theatre Company at the Calderwood Pavilion in Boston until November 30th, 2025. And at approximately 90 minutes with no intermissions, this is one store that has anything you want to help make you laugh and smile for a little while. Well, at least if that's convenient for you. Coming up next at the Huntington Theatre venue, next week at the Huntington Theatre venue at 264 Huntington Avenue, will be the musical Fun Home by Janine Tesori and Lisa Crone, based on the graphic novel by Alice M. Bechdel, which runs from November 14th through December 14th, 2025. For tickets and more information on either of these shows, contact Huntington Theater Company online at huntingtontheater.org, by phone at 617-266-0800, or in person at the Huntington Theater, 264 Huntington Avenue in Boston. To read the full review, visit METRMag.com. Hi, everyone. Tonight we're in Concord, Mass. Last week we were in Leominster, about half hour up the road, and tonight we're in Concord, where the Concord Players are presenting She Kills Monsters. So, did this show slay? Let's find out. Concord Players does not merely move into its 2025-2026 season. It explodes into it full force with the visually stunning She Kills Monsters. As exquisitely staged by Quentin Capel, the line between a distraught teen's imaginary game world and reality blur as they converge simultaneously on stage. The entire production is a vibrant display of creativity that would make any Dungeons & Dragons dungeon master proud. I think. To be honest, I've never played the game before, but you know what? You don't have to know the game in order to watch this dazzling display of creativity unfold and recognize instantly that it is simply a visual and imaginative feast. Using the entire Concord Players stage space, there is not a single moment wasted on stage and never a dull moment. In addition to the articulate staging by Capel, there is sublime choreography by Jamie Cook, counterbalanced by top-notch action sequences staged by fight coordinator Sidney Grant. She Kills Monsters first debuted in New York City in 2011, and then in 2013 had productions in both Chicago and Boston. In 2012, the show would receive 2 Drama Desk Award nominations for Outstanding Costume Design and Outstanding Sound Design in a Play. Since gaining traction, the show has since been staged multiple times, inspiring a Young Adventurers edition for schools, although some schools will still refuse to stage it, knowing the subject of a young person's sexual orientation is involved. As the play begins, we are introduced to the narrator, played by Carla Parada, who explains the events in the story we are about to witness and gives background info setting up the story and our dual heroines, Agnes and Tilly. In She Kills Monsters, we are introduced to Athens, Ohio resident Agnes Evans, played by Rachel Hall, an average woman working as a high school English teacher and engaged to be married. Agnes speaks a lot with her closest friend, high school counselor Vera, played by Ava Enoch, who also knew Tilly, as this was Agnes and Tilly's former high school. Enoch provides many great laughs as Vera, although throughout the play, easing much of the tension caused by her friend Agnes. Miles, played by Devin Atwood, is Agnes's boyfriend of 5 years, and the couple are in the process of moving in together, but Agnes must first clear out her parents' house. Years before, as if she had wished for the event to happen, which of course she didn't, Agnes had lost her parents and little sister Tilly, played by M. Sheeran, in a fatal car accident. As Agnes is cleaning and packing Tilly's stuff, she finds a game module Tilly had written for D&D. Agnes reads Tilly's notes but has no idea as to what she is reading. However, she decides that perhaps by playing this Dungeons & Dragons game that Tilly had written, she might learn who her sister was when she was alive a little better. Hall is riveting as Agnes, who decides to embark on her own D&D adventure with her late sister, using the help of a high school student and dungeon master named Chuck, played by Chris Maloney, to help Agnes play the game as Tilly designed. Maloney is hysterical as Chuck, who not only teaches Agnes about the game, but also serves as dungeon master for Tilly's written game adaptation. Becoming a bridge between fantasy and reality, as Chuck helps Agnes circumnavigate through the various pathways of the game, he simultaneously helps Agnes to understand Tilly by introducing her to Tilly's real-life friends. In a sensitively approached performance by Sheeran, Agnes soon learns about young Tilly's highly personal revelations about her sexuality and multiple encounters with bullying in school. For Tilly, it isn't just a game. It is very much her diary. Besides being an explosively visceral experience with imaginative puppetry, wild costumes, projections, and other special visual effects simply off the charts, again, the highest of praise is extended to the entire creative team at Concord Players. On the page, She Kills Monsters is also just a damn good story. It is a sensitively constructed tale by Keen Yen, showing a plethora of diverse, young, LGBTQ characters who are contending with adversity, both imaginary and real, simply because of their preferred sexuality. As Agnes delves deeper into this quest, fantasy and reality worlds collide, with Agnes determined to connect with Tilly, a.k.a. Tilius the Paladin, and soon realizing just how much of her sister she never really knew. In the game, Tilius has a girlfriend named Lilith Morningstar, played by Maya V.O.C., a demon queen that is later revealed to be based on someone Tilly knew. We also meet the mighty Calliope Darkwalker, played by Lena Vani, a dark elf that resembles a hot, muscular supermodel and is also based on a real person Tilly knew. Both V.O.C. and Vani are fearless in their respective character roles. As Orcus, Michael J. portrays demon overlord of the underworld that possesses lost souls and likes watching television. And yes, Orcus is yet another character that is based on one of Tilly's real-life friends. As Agnes and Tilly form a posse, they travel to Orcus in search of the lost soul of Athens, and Orcus joins them on their quest. Miles also appears in the game, attacking Tilly as a shape-shifting gelatinous cube, a monster that Agnes must kill, leading one to believe that Tilly was not too fond of the fiancé. Throughout the She Kills Monsters tale, we also meet various heroes and villains, including Steve, played by Michael Gravante, a mage and wannabe hero who gets pummeled. A lot. Farah, played by Tiva Skravonik, an adorable, feisty little fairy who seems mischievous at first but soon proves to be a source of pure infernal hostility to the adventurers. And finally, Evil Gabby and Evil Tina, played by Olivia Knickerbocker and Mia Mercutio, respectively, are demonic cheerleaders that torment Tilly about her sexuality, both in the game and in real life when Tilly was alive. In particular, Gravante excels at elevating a lot of the great tension during the story, replacing it with great laughter. This is a show that will not only resonate with geeks, but with anyone with a pulse, a brain, and a heart. While alive, Tilly never had the opportunity to come out to her sister, and the relationship either sister might have had with their parents is never really mentioned, let alone discussed or explored at length. However, if the play successfully prompts parents and children in the audience to engage in a serious discussion on sexuality after seeing She Kills Monsters, all the better. At approximately 2 hours 50 minutes with one intermission, She Kills Monsters continues in Concord until November 22nd, 2025, and BEE Dragonborn, Half-Orc, or Tiefling, and I have no idea what any of those are. This is definitely one adventure you will want to play. I mean, see. Coming up next for Concord Players will be The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, running from February 13th through February 28th, 2026. For tickets and more information on either of these shows, contact Concord Players at 978-369-2990 or visit concordplayers.org. To read the full review, visit METRMag.com. Hey, so yesterday we were in Concord to see She Kills Monsters. Today we're at Central Square Theater in Cambridge, where they're putting on Summer 1976. Did I like it? Let's find out. Just as many people prepare for the annual autumnal celebration that is Thanksgiving, Central Square Theater, or CST, serves up a delightful feast in a compassionate look back to a so-called simpler time in summer 1976. The one-act, two-hander play tells the story of two neighbors who strike up a dubious friendship while simultaneously looking at the prevailing second wave of feminism, which took place during the 70s and was just hitting its stride. Written by Pulitzer Prize winner David Auburn, notable for Proof, and directed for CST by Paula Plum, the story of summer 1976 follows the two women living next door to one another in Ohio. The first woman, Diana, played by Lee McKeska Gardner, is a fierce, iconoclast artist and single mother whose house is maintained as organized as her day-to-day life. Alice, played by Laura Latriel, is a latent hippie whose husband is a workaholic professor while she remains at home. Summer 1976 debuted in 2023, running from April to June, with the original Broadway production featuring actresses Laura Linney as Diana and Jessica Hecht as Alice, with Hecht receiving a 2023 Tony Award nomination. For the CST production of Summer 1976, the striking single set design is of the outside of these neighboring houses, each sharing some sort of coastal view. Latrell is exuberant as the relentlessly cheerful Alice, who at first spends most of her summer reading B novels, smoking grass, and supervising a home improvement project, not always in that order, all while overseeing the couple's young daughter, roughly the same age as Diana's child. Gardner gives a strong performance as the ardently independent and intellectual Diana, who works on the same campus as Alice's husband, but initially has zero interest in getting to know her neighbors, especially their young child. However, it soon becomes apparent that the two children have other ideas in mind for their mother's planned summer days as they quickly become playmates. Thus, these two very distinctive personalities are thrown together by circumstance and through a faculty babysitting co-op set up by Alice's husband. As they begin to regularly spend time together, qualities they first found annoying soon become traits they admire in one another. As the two get to know one another through their child playdates, an unlikely friendship blossoms over the summer 1976, the year of the American bicentennial. For anyone doing the math, assuming these two women were in their mid-20s at the time, they would now be in their mid-70s. The above would be a good thing to keep in mind, given some of the sexist overtones of the era in the Auburn story, which are there intended for us to recall, but hopefully never repeat, although the current administration might seek otherwise. There are numerous plot twists and turns in the second half of the Auburn tale, which may entertain some while infuriating others, but it is the overall storytelling and compelling performances by the respective CST creative team and cast which makes the show a delight to watch. An area which is a relief to observe in the play is in the omission of seemingly obligatory pop culture references of the period, which other authors seem to think we require in order for our little minds to accept the time and place in which their stories exist. Thankfully, you won't find many here. That said, not sure if this was a scripted or an impromptu moment, but there was one brief second where Alice mimicked an iconic John Travolta disco stance, perhaps not realizing that the film Saturday Night Fever debuted in 1977, not 76. However, only a few of us of a certain age might possibly even pick up on that, and really, who gives a damn? As time advances over summer 1976, Alice and Diana become closer than either had expected, although their distinctive personalities do occasionally clash, resulting in some unexpected fireworks along the way. Nevertheless, the bond they develop that begins as unlikely as soon seems unbreakable. The contemplative and nostalgic summer 1976 continues at Central Square Theater in Cambridge until November 30th, 2025, and if you plan to attend and are of a certain age, feeling nostalgic over this particular summer yourself, if you think of it, maybe contemplate reconnecting with an old friend from that era and bring them along. Coming up next for CST will be Ken Urban's The Moderate, beginning February 5th and running through March 1st, 2026. For tickets and more information, contact Central Square Theater at 617-576-9278 or visit centralsquaretheater.org. To read the full review, visit METRMag.com. We're at intermission at Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, or Cursed Child, at the Emerson Colonial Theater. Was it a magical experience? We'll talk about it in a minute. As Thanksgiving approaches, Emerson Colonial Theater in Boston welcomes the 6-time Tony Award-winning Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and it is definitely one show for which many Potter fans will give thanks. Produced by Sonia Friedman Productions, Colin Callender, and Harry Potter Theatrical Productions, the 2-act theatrical event is based on the original Harry Potter saga by J.K. Rowling, written by Jack Thorne, from an original story by Thorne, Rowling, and John Tiffany. Since its West End premiere in London back in 2016, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child has undergone extensive changes in both the number of acts and chapters to the story and its overall length. The London West End production of Cursed Child won 9 of its 11 Olivier Award nominations, including Best New Play, while the Broadway production went on to receive 10 Tony Award nominations in 2018, for which it would win 6, including the award for Best Play. Taking place 19 years after the events of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the story of Cursed Child follows Albus Severus Potter, played by Adam Grant Morrison, the second son of Harry Potter, played by Nick Dellenberg, who is now head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement at the Ministry of Magic. Don't know what any of that even means, even though you read or heard me say that last paragraph 3 times. You're not alone. But hang on, there's more. Rowling herself referred to the play as the 8th Harry Potter story. Now, a slight digression here, which might help those few folks out there less familiar with the Harry Potter franchise. Yes, much like Muggles and Wiggles, they do exist. Back in 2018, my family was set to travel to Universal Studios in Florida, and at that time, my wife and 2 daughters were laser-focused on the Harry Potter part of the amusement park. Me? Not so much. Potter never seemed to grab me, although I tried to follow along with the series as best as I could. I had similar issues with the 2 Tolkien trilogies, which also became blockbuster motion pictures franchise. Please, nobody rat me out to Stephen Colbert. However, to keep the family peace while on vacation, to help me prepare for all things Potteresque I was about to endure, before we went, I decided to watch all of the Harry Potter movies in sequence in a concerted effort to educate myself and give myself some semblance of what it was I was about to experience at the park. Yeah, it didn't help. I still needed my wife and daughters to help me understand just what the hell was going on in all the 8 films, and I wasn't about to read any of the original Rowling stories. To this day, I wouldn't know a Gryffindor from a Slytherin, nor a Whiffenpoof, Slip and Slide, Heffalump, nor Woozle. I mention this only to signal those coming to see Cursed Child that such knowledge of all things lexicon and vocabulary associated with the prior Harry Potter series is not necessarily obligatory. Does knowing some of the prior story arc help? Of course. Is it required? Not really, as even if you do not get some or most of the references, you will still be astounded by the sheer level of creativity involved in this spectacular production. One of the smartest things this production, now playing at the Emerson Colonial Theater, did creatively is in the use of onstage magic, which includes sleight of hand, illusion, misdirection, mirrors, lights, and incredibly technical wizardry. Just like any good magic show, there are moments nearly happening every few minutes that will have you asking yourself, just how the hell did they do that? This show also contains a phenomenal use of musical underscoring that makes this story flow very much like a musical, complete with choreographed moves by the performers nearly at every turn. Above all, it is still just a hell of a lot of fun to watch. Still, it wouldn't hurt to bring along a Potterhead, a fan of all things Harry Potter, to help you get through the stuff you won't understand. I did by bringing along my youngest. Anyway, back to our story. Taking place in 2017, years after the epilogue of Deathly Hallows, Harry Potter's son Albus arrives to attend school at Hogwarts and expecting to get sorted into Gryffindor. However, Albus instead gets sorted into Slytherin, along with Scorpius Malfoy, played by David Fine, son of Harry's former foe, Draco, played by Ryan Hallahan, and Draco's unseen wife, Astoria. Albus had just previously met Scorpius Malfoy and Rose Granger Weasley, played by Nia Vanessa McCalla, on the Hogwarts Express train en route to Hogwarts. In the story, the older Ron Weasley, played by Matt Harrington, and Hermione Granger, played by Rachel Leslie, also appear, as Hermione is now the Minister of Magic, while Ron manages Weasley's Wizard Wheezies. Albus struggles at Hogwarts, utterly unsuccessful at living up to his father's legacy, thus making him resentful of his father. Harry also appears to have his own issues dealing with his mischievous, malcontent son Albus. Both Morrison and Fine give exceptional performances as the boys who are bullied over the next years. Not only is Albus mocked by classmates for not living up to his father's legacy, Scorpius is the subject of a scandalous rumor that he is not Draco's offspring, but rather the son of evil Lord Voldemort. Around this same time, Harry Potter's scar starts hurting again, raising concerns that Voldemort may be returning. Now, at this juncture, if you don't know about the scar, who Voldemort is, stop reading or listening here, go learn everything Potter, then return to continue with this review. I'll wait. Back? Good. Let's resume. In a connecting plot, Harry has acquired a prototype of a time turner which allows folks to travel in time. Albus overhears Harry talking to Amos Diggory, played by the versatile Larry Yando, who plays Albus's namesakes Albus Dumbledore and Severus Snape, who is cared for by his niece Delphi, played by Julia Nightingale. Diggory lost his son Cedric through pivotal events in an earlier chapter in the Harry Potter saga, and begs Harry to use the time turner device to go back and prevent the death of his son Cedric. After overhearing his father refuse to help the Diggorys, Albus decides to play the hero and enlist both Delphi and Scorpius to aid him in his quest. While adhering to the pledge of #KeepTheSecrets, requesting those who have seen the play not to reveal its major twists, I will still point out that the story moves into areas of other standard time travel cautionary tales of, if you change one part of history, the rippling effect could prove disastrous, and of course, it does. At a nearly 3-hour runtime, this is a superbly crafted production, highlighting unrestrained, brilliant onstage storytelling that equally entertains both the veteran Potterhead and the completely uninitiated. So catch the Hogwarts Express, or maybe at least catch the Green Line, to go see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which continues at the Emerson Colonial Theater in Boston until December 20th, 2025. For tickets and more information, or to read the full review, visit METRMag.com. Shows continuing during the month of November in Massachusetts include Tick, Tick, Boom by Jonathan Larson at the Umbrella Art Center in Concord through November 23rd. Sardines, a comedy about death, written and performed by Chris Grace, continues at the Huntington Theater Company in Boston through November 16th. The Beautiful Land I Seek, a.k.a. La Linda Tierra que Busco Yo, by Matthew Barbot from Teatro Chelsea in Chelsea, Mass., continues through November 16th. Kim's Convenience by Ince Choi continues at the BCA Calderwood at the Huntington Theater Company, Boston, Mass. Through November 30th. Robert Harling's Steel Magnolias is playing at the Majestic Theater in West Springfield through November 30th. Lizard Boy, a new musical by Justin Huertas. It continues at Speakeasy Stage Company in Boston through November 22nd. A Sherlock Carol by Mark Shanahan continues at the Lyric Stage in Boston through December 21st. She Kills Monsters by Keen Yen from Concord Players in Concord, Mass. Runs through November 22nd. Beehive, the 60s musical by Larry Gallagher, continues at the Barnstable Comedy Club in Barnstable, Mass. Through November 23rd. Summer, 1976 by David Auburn continues at Central Square Theater in Cambridge through November 30th. Sherlock Holmes and the Case of the Jersey Lily by Katie Forget from Washington Street Players continues in Holliston, Mass. Through November 15th. The Thanksgiving Play by Larissa Fasthorse continues at Burlington Players in Burlington, Mass. Through November 22nd. End Days by Deborah Zoe Laufer continues from City on a Hill Arts in Leominster, Mass. Through November 15th. Harry Potter and the Cursed Child continues at the Emerson Colonial Theater in Boston through December 20th. The musical Fun Home by Janine Tesori, Lisa Krohn, and Alison Bechdel will be performed by the Huntington Theater Company in Boston from November 14th through December 14th. 'Twas the Night Before by Cirque du Soleil will entertain the holiday masses at the Box Center Wang Theater in Boston from November 26th through December 14th. The Nutcracker performs at the Hanover Theater in Worcester from November 28th through November 30th. and Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat by Andrew Lloyd Webber will light up the stage at Theater at the Mount in Gardner from November 28th to December 7th. For tickets or more information on any of these upcoming shows, you can contact the theaters directly or use the links available from the listings at METRMag.com. Hi. So before we go, I wanted to just ask people who either listen to or watch the podcast if they recognized something in common with the 4 shows that were reviewed this past week. Every once in a while, I'll have a string of shows that are seemingly completely unrelated. Different authors, different theater companies, different stories, yet somehow they have a central theme that is shared. And it's not intentional or anything, it just happens as a sort of because of the circumstance. And that's what happened this past week, as all of the 4 shows that were reviewed did have something in common: family. And more importantly, salvaging rifts within those respective family dynamics. Now, Kim's Convenience dealt with a father with struggling to reconnect with his son and daughter. You had She Kills Monsters, which follows the plight of a sister who's desperately trying to learn more about her late sister that she never truly knew. Summer 1976, you have 2 mothers who bond and soon themselves become more like sisters over that one long summer long ago, supporting each other through their own personal family issues. And even Harry Potter and the Cursed Child deals with 2 contentious fathers desperately trying to mend the rifts they forged between themselves and their respective sons, who their sons soon become like brothers as well. So as we head into the holidays, and especially with Thanksgiving coming up in a couple of weeks, let's try to mend some of those rifts that we have in our own lives wherever possible, because in the end, family is what matters most, and that little hyphen between the date of birth and death can make all the difference. Next week, we'll be focusing on another show that shares in this same ongoing theme with the musical Fun Home by Huntington Theater Company in Boston. But first, we're going to take a break and review a fun Sherlock Holmes-based show called A Sherlock Carol with the Lyric Stage Company in Boston. So I hope you come back, and be back next week for episode 12. And in the meantime, keep enjoying and supporting Massachusetts theater. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.